kill me. Okay, I need to. Okay, so this is Alex, and this is the first time for her as a project manager. Okay, she's excited, but for the new role duties that she will need to accomplish. But she's also overwhelmed because she needs to manage the project on scope, on time, on budget. She also needs to create a risk plan. She also needs to manage stakeholders' expectations. She needs to manage change. She also needs to empower software quality, test complexity. She needs to work on team communication and team morale. Lots of things that she was not aware of before she joined that role. So on this session, we will explore the different and the common issues that Alex will face and the tips that we consider that will help her a lot on this journey. So I'm Jorge Tutor. I was a Drupal developer. Now I work as a project manager since 10 years ago. I work for Metadrop. Metadrop is a Drupal specialized company. We basically work mainly for enterprises and corporates, and we are focused on challenging projects. So that's why managing those projects is key in order to the success of those projects. So the first chapter will be about project scope. Project scope is about what is going to be included in the project. So the main issues that we will find is the lack of definition on requirements. When you meet the client at first, usually stakeholders, they don't know exactly what they want, or there's no definition. There's a complete list of requirements, but they want a fixed price. We will explore them later in the budget phase. And at first, for them, the main priority is time and budget. So they forget about the scope at first, but when everything has been finished, they take the tender or the RFP, and then it's like, okay, in the second page, there's this specific specification, so I want it also, and it's like, yes, but we are running out of time, there's no budget left. Yeah, but in the tender, that was included. And there is something called, this specific concept for that, which is called the scope creep, that basically is about that. When you are working in a project, you will discover new things. So if you don't manage those properly, the scope will increase, and there's no budget to support that new scope. And you will find yourself like, okay, I have accepted in order to make a great project those new requirements, but the client completely forgot about that and now wants the full package that was on the initial plan. If you have a proactive team, which is great, you will find this issue, like the stakeholders will ask for new things, and if you are not involved, this proactive team, we would like to do those kind of things, like we are able to do it, yes, it's looking nice, but there's no budget or that will support that. So you will have all your projects will suffer a lot regarding that. So, which are the tips that I suggest? Set the clear and comprehensive definition of objectives, requirements, deliverables, assumptions, constraints, and exclusions. I don't know, but this is this area of software management. I don't know why, but what is not being included looks like it's been included, because other sites does that. Like, yes, but Facebook has videos and a pool and whatever. It's like, okay, yeah, but your website is about recipes. Yeah, but all kind of websites, you can just go and copy it. It's like, no. So what we do, for example, we use a mouse code method, like must, should, could, and want. And for me, the most important ones are the want ones. Because when we prepare a budget for a client, we have all the different items, different user stories, and the client can see clearly what's not being included. So we have like a global template. For just an example, imagine that we have like, as a user, I want to comment on articles. If the client didn't ask for comments, that user story is there as a want. So it's clear that is not being included. And if they want, and the good thing is like that task is also, that user story is also estimated. So it's like, okay, you want it, you can change the status, and it will increase automatically the scope. And that's great because if they change something, the scope increase, so they don't use to change anything in that Excel file. In order to define clearly what's needed in the project, this is a principle, the work breakdown structure, that helps you to break down into small pieces what needs to be done. That way you can, instead of talking about the full project, maybe the first meeting is great to talk about the full project, but then you need to go one by one, trying to identify more or less what the client needs. Of course, you will need to monitor and control because of that scope creep. And you should have like a project management tool and focus on transparency and share board with the client. So that way, the client will always see what is the status of the project overall. Ensuring time delivery, when the project is going to be delivered. Give you a minute. Okay, so the first one is about unrealistic deadlines. Sometimes you try, in order to win a project, to say to the client that everything is possible, but not everything is possible, or at least not everything is possible at that time. Maybe later, it could be. So basically, if you are not managing, or you are setting unrealistic deadlines, or you are not managing the scope creep, so the scope increase every sprint, or you have not managed previously different constraints or dependencies. This is mainly between different teams. For example, maybe you are focused on the website, on creating an API, and so on. And maybe the client is working with a different team that is creating their PIN with their products that needs to interact each other. So everything needs to be checked in advance. Risk management, and of course, all different things like illness or disasters that you will not, I mean, you cannot foresee them clearly, but probably you have a team of 10 people, someone will get vacation, someone will get ill, and this is something that will happen in a project of 1 year. So basically, the keys are to work in everything in advance, thinking on all teams. You will find that sometimes you need to also manage indirectly other teams that are involved in the project, even if they are not part of your own team. But someone needs to put some brain there. A shared calendar will help a lot with the different milestones, sprints, bank holidays, and vacations. You will discover that, for example, someone wants to release the project in a week. Like this happened to me recently. Like the release has been moved to a week in Spain that is basically full of holidays. So having that, everyone will see it clearly, and you are working worldwide, it's great to have that information all together. When I say like sprint milestone oriented, it's like you have a goal for each milestone, and all teams are working in the same thing. In my experience, it's quite better because everyone is in context, so you need to ask for something or whatever. Because if not, you are working like in a waterfall, like the API team is creating the API, but then the people that are going to use that API is maybe 3 sprints later, and the issue is they are not working together, when they are trying to integrate the API, they will discover that does not match their needs. So that's why they need to be as close as possible. And when I say realistic deadlines with margin, I mean, if your team is letting you know that they will end by Monday, don't tell the client that this will be finished by Monday. Just give some gap to the team. Managing budget, which is the total cost of the project. At the end, cost is really, really important because we would like to be paid. Our team wants also to be paid, and the client does not want to expend so much in the project. You will see that I'm a big fan of DeepLearn. Okay, so about project budget. We have like unrealistic budget, like we are not taking in consideration the real scope or the complexity of the project, like the scope creep, again, and other kind of things that happens during the project, like lack of visibility into spending. You need to have some way, I mean, you are charging per hour or per workday or per sprint or whatever. You need to know how many budget left. And the client should be aware also. That way, if you do that, and you try, it's like the key is like to move the budget into the center, so, and everyone is consuming that budget. Like, so that way the stakeholder is also responsible of the budget. So if you are having several meetings every day, the client needs to see that that budget is decreasing. If you are every time changing requirements and redoing things and so on, the client needs to be aware. And that's key, that's something that is transparent since the beginning. Because at the beginning you have time to fix things, but not at the end. Like there are some companies that only raise their hand when they are 90% of the budget used or spent, and there's like a lot of things to do. Like we cannot continue with the project because we are only 90%, and the client, I was not aware of that. Sometimes you doubt about that. Like, okay, I mean, we have been working full year. I mean, we should be around 90%, 80%, but client needs to play the role. Like, I was not aware. If I were aware, that specific feature will be different, and so on. And the fixed price contracts. So different tips. It's of course setting realistic budgets, taking into account scope and complexity. You can check other projects that you have delivered before. Better if there's the same team involved. And if not, you can ask other managers and of course the developers. The developers will help you a lot to see if something is easy or not. Sometimes it's counterintuitive, like because in Drupal there are lots of things that are already done. So it's just a matter of installing a module. But there are others that even they are simple, they are not there. It's something you need to build. So sometimes when you provide estimation to the client, maybe there are a few things that it only takes one day, and others takes the full week and makes no sense for the client and maybe not for you, but it's because there's a module or something, or have previous experience that we're integrating with Salesforce, for example, and so on, that will boost your team. And I would like to stop here just a few minutes talking about agile contracts. If you would like to have more information about that, please ask me later or in the question phase, because I can provide like a full session about agile contracts. But basically, there are other contracts models farther than fixed price. Like fixed price is like the old model everyone knows and everyone wants to sign, but in the end, it's an issue for the client and for you. So I think the typical is the time and materials. Like I'm working, you are paying me per work day. If I work more, you pay more, and that's good for you, but not for the client. Like, because the client needs to know how much it will be the project in the end. So there is like a different model, which is the time materials with spending selling. Like, okay, we are paying you by workday, but we need to have a clear limit. And based on that, you can manage the scope creep, change request, and so on. Like, okay, I can do what you are asking me, but we are close to that limit that we set before. You can be paid also by sprints, like we need the different sprints, and the client is paying you per sprint. And those ones I like them the most, like the fixed profit. And in this model, the client is also paying you the cost of the team. And you are transparent with the client about the profit that you would like to get of that project. So if the project in the end needs more time to be developed, the client of course will pay. So it will cause no harm in your organization, because you're going to be paid the cost, but in the end you will get the full profit that you initially set. Of course, everything about initial scope that you have agreed. Like it couldn't be like you will be just charging me cost per hour forever and with the initial profit, like based on the initial scope. And the other one, this money for nothing and change for free, is similar to the previous one, but the main difference is like the client can't stop the project whenever wants. It's like an initial, it's common, like you define like 50 different user stories, but you discover that maybe those kind of things are not needed anymore, because the marketing team was not ready, so there's no need to create a campaign or whatever. So in that model, the client is not obliged to complete the full scope. Okay, managing stakeholders' expectations, which are the ones which have that interest in that delivery of that project, because the ones are going to use them. So, once again, unrealistic expectations, lack of stakeholders buy-in. That one is mainly about trust. The stakeholders need to trust you. So sometimes you are exploring different solutions with stakeholders, and nothing that you are suggesting, they like it. So that's a big issue, because you need to move forward some way. The lack of transparency. Like the client does not see anything, just have information on the demo at the end of the sprint and so on, but they feel frustrated because they don't know if you are working on the project, you are not, what's happening. So something that we do is our board, we use GitLab as a tool. We give access to the client, to the tool. Our developers and myself also write down on the different user stories, different tickets, what's been done every day. If you have some issues, we also write them down there. So that way the client can follow what's happening and also can interact if they want. That's key. And sometimes you need to ask the client, sometimes not, but that way they are not asking you by email every day, what's the status of the project, why this one has not been delivered. You have like a long list of comments of your team explaining why that we are an issue with that specifically. So in order to deal with those issues, the first one is to define a clear value refinement process. We use Agile. I think that most of us do. So the client needs to know when you are going to discuss the requirements. So what we do, for example, is we first, imagine that we are in the first sprint. Everything has been discussed. The team is working on that sprint. So I use that week or 2 weeks to have several backward refinement meetings with the client. So we are working on defining everything for the next sprint for the team. It's like the team is working in today, I'm working in the future. All requirements should be clarified. I mean, when you are on development time, it's hard to start defining different things. We will spend a lot of time. There is at the same time of this session, my partner Ricardo is providing some workshop about Big Hat, which is a tool that helps you to write down what's been expected in a human way. So both client and developers can read those definitions and use as a test. Regular communication, be realistic, and bad news, of course, as soon as possible. And you need to build trust. And trust is something that is quite hard to gain, but quite easy to lose. So if the client discovers that you are lying to them in some way, then that relationship will suffer. So bad news first, and you need to expose those bad news in a way that explains that it's something that is affecting the full project. It's not like your fault, or it's not because your developers, whatever. It's like the issues of the project, and we need all to find a solution. And sometimes the stakeholders can help on that direction. Changing requirements, finding different approaches, and they should be aware and they should participate. Okay, managing change. As I said before, if the budget is fixed, I will have initial scope. If the client wants to change something, they need to have a clear process to change the scope. And it's up to you to decide if the client can change one task by another if they are the same size, or there will be some penalties if the client does that, because you have already invested time exploring the solution or the definition of that specific task. It's like, but sometimes you need to discuss a little bit, like, okay, but you have not started that user story. Yes, but we have invested 1 week analyzing how to do that specific story. So I cannot change that one now. So, of course, again, realistic expectation, and you should update the project plan. And you should be flexible and adaptable. I mean, if the client is asking you to change something, there's a good reason behind. So you need to know what's happening in order to accept or reject that specific petition. About team communication. Teams will communicate in order to exchange information. So many issues will be like having duplicating information in different channels, like in Slack, in the GitLab tool, in email, and different files, and the initial document that the client sent you in order to prepare the budget. It's like everything should be in the same place. There are different communication styles. There will be language barriers, cultural differences, lack of trust, fear of conflict. That one, it's key. Sometimes you avoid saying specific things or bad news in order to avoid conflict, but in the end, it's worse. And that one, it's killer, like lack of time. So because I have no time, I don't communicate anything. Like, for example, it's something that used to happen, like the developers are working a specific task, they are giving no status, and you need to schedule specific meetings with them in order to know what's happening. So if we follow that process, all of us are wasting time, basically. So if the developers are adding one comment per day on the status they are working on, you don't need to schedule a meeting. They can work as they want. So that's just that comment every day is key. Avoid emails, please. That tool is evil. And that one I would like to highlight, the context-less communication. When you are asking for something or writing something down, you need to think that the other person is not aware of the full project or is not aware of everything you are working on. So the more information you provide, the better. So for example, if you are talking about, I don't know, a graph or a specific user story or whatever, it's better that you add to that specific ticket the information that you have. For example, I don't know, the documentation of the API, which is in a PDF file or whatever. Attach that information to the ticket directly. Or, for example, if you need to ask the client something, for example, about the budget or whatever, you can attach the contract even if you want. So you facilitate every time the next step. About team morale, keys, avoid overwork, help people on that work-life balance, recognize what people are doing in the project, and try. It's the last one about lack of fun. It's difficult, but I mean, we are doing software. It should be fun. So you should be, you need to create a positive and supportive work environment, and for example, celebrating success. Sometimes we focus only in what's wrong, and that's not a good idea at all. It's better to, maybe just like as a manager, for example, you have people that are performing well and people that are not, and sometimes we focus only on the ones that are not performing well. In the contrary, I suggest that if we focus on the people that are doing good things, the others will copy. Software quality. Okay, so once again, not clear or understood requirements, poor design, coding errors, integration problems, testing challenges, and so on. So the first one is to define and document quality standards. Every organization should have a definition of them. What definition of them is like the acceptance criteria that affects all the user stories or your organization. Like, task needs to be tested, it needs to be documented, needs to work on those specific browsers. You're not going to add that information on every ticket. So you need to define clearly what are the standards, and you are going and let the team know that if they are not fulfilling those standards, that task is going to be rejected. You should use automate testing tools and monitor what's being tested, what's the code coverage, static analysis, and so on. And empower a culture of quality. The team will see that if they are investing on quality, they will suffer less. There will be less pain in production later. And in the end, it's better that you can work on what you have decided to do today, and not that there's an error in production, let's change all the plan of the week. And that will happen when you don't have the tests. Technical complexity, of course, about communication, realistic deadlines, and technical challenges, of course. I'm moving fast because I have a few minutes, sorry for, but I will share the full presentation later on. You would like to check. I would like to focus just on the main specific things, and also you have some time to ask me some questions. Okay, that one, I think nothing to highlight, exactly. That one is key, like build a team with the necessary technical expertise or find someone. I mean, sometimes you will need to outsource specific things. It's great you have that information in advance. Like, we don't have a Salesforce expert, so let's try to find one. And that's the last topic to discuss today, which is about the project risks. Eisenhower said that planning, the plan is nothing, but planning is everything. So even if in the end you're not following your own plan, it's great that you have think of that plan before. You need to work on that one. You also all need to, there are some typical project risks like technical difficulties, legal constraints. Sometimes the client will ask you about different things that are not legal on specific countries. Just a quick example is the regulation that we have in Europe regarding cookies. The client wants to have as much metrics as possible, but you're aware that cookies need to be blocked. So, and I recommend to create what's called a risk management plan. So you need to, it's basically 4 columns. You can add more you want, but basically it's about risk, consequence, likelihood, and action plan. So you will have like a clear risk with the consequence of that risk, the probability that that risk could happen, and what you will do if that happens. Like, for example, the deployment went wrong. So action plan, recover a backup. I mean, if you are not, you cannot bring back the site in 5 minutes, 10 minutes, then automatically recover a backup. So that needs to be thought in advance. And you also need to balance, you need to also, to focus on risk mitigation. Like if you are aware of that risk, you can work in advance in order to mitigate. For example, release the project before in pre-production. And that way you will see there what's happening. And the closer they are pre-production to production, the better. And you will need to balance the risk mitigation cost and the benefits, but always from the safety first perspective. Like, of course, mitigation has a cost. Like, you need to invest on that, so you need to find a balance, but it fully depends on the likelihood, like the probability. If the probability is high, it's clear that you need to invest on that. And on the budget that we discussed previously, you also need to think about those kind of things that you need to invest time. So it's not only about specific user stories. It's about the full package. Sometimes clients just wants to pay per user story. So if this is the case, you will need to increase a little bit each user story so you can cover those specific things. So find your own path, manage scope, ensure time delivery, manage budget, manage risk plan, manage stakeholder expectations, manage change, ensure software quality, manage technical complexity, empower team communication, and empower team morale. What questions do you have? No questions? Thank you very much.
There is a hand.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
It's not a question actually, it's a thought.
Okay.
And I think it was very important what you said on that one slide, that we always talk about things that went bad, but in in very few occasions we talk about things that went really well, because we always accomplish a milestone and then we just think about reaching the next one. So I think it is very important to also celebrate the successes and compliment each other on what they did great. So just wanted to emphasize.
Yeah, absolutely. It's key. I know this is something that is close to our Spanish culture, but we used to focus only on the bad things sometimes, and we avoid celebrating. People said that that one is because this is like because we are animals in the end. So if you enter into a cave which is perfect, is warm, but there is a tiger there, you need to focus on the tiger and run. So I think that we are biased to focus on bad things, but you need to try to avoid that first feeling and try to focus the sprint on what has been done great, and empower that direction.
And it's also insane to see the reaction from the people when you actually give them a compliment. We started doing that as well, or we focused on doing that as well for a couple of years now in the company, and the people are so happy when their colleagues and their bosses and their leads are saying something nice about stuff they did, that encourages you to really be motivated for the next project.
In my opinion, or maybe this is some controversy, but there's like some strategies like kudos and so on that at the end of the sprint you are giving thanks to everyone on the team and so on. I don't like it so much because sometimes it looks like you are forcing that thank you. I think it's more natural when something great happens, just focus on what happened, try to identify why this happened, and let all the team know that this is the right direction and so on. And people will, as you said, on their side, they feel really good, and they try to replicate that behavior later on. That's what we all want.
Sorry, just to add like one final sentence to that. A suggestion, because it's exactly how you say, you feel forced to say something nice when you do it like in an open situation. What we did is that we allowed the people to give anonymously compliments to their colleagues, and the colleagues only received all the compliments at one situation. So it was not even clear who said what, but only the good words already did the magic.
Like it. Good idea. Any other question or comments or thoughts? Okay. Thank you. There are some books that you can explore if you want. And thank you to the sponsors. And thank you all for coming to this session.